Hello, this is Miss Pat from Samuels Public Library. This week in Science Scouts, we're going to learn what trees can tell us about the past, about the weather, and about how old they are, because trees can talk, kind of. So let's find out how. This week's book is going to be The Case of the Wooden Timekeeper, okay, by Eric Hogan. It's a crisp fall afternoon in Dandelion Town. Scout is stacking firewood, getting ready for the winter. He loves to sit cozy by the fire during chilly evenings. Here comes Daisy up the path. Hello, Daisy, says Scout. Hi, Scout. I found a beautiful pine cone that had fallen from a tree. I used it to make a nature craft for you. It's a mini, Scout. Cool. Thanks, Daisy. Pine cones are awesome, but a pine cone twin is even more awesome. See what she did with that pine cone? You know, earlier today when I was gathering firewood, I found something fascinating, says Scout. Ooh, tell me more, says Daisy. I discovered a wooden timekeeper. A wooden timekeeper? What's that? Asked Daisy. Well, replied Scout, that's today's nature mystery. I love solving nature mysteries, says Daisy. Let's call this one The Case of the Wooden Timekeeper. Scout opens up his field notes. Have a look, Daisy. I sketched some clues that will help you solve the mystery, said Scout. Okay, let's go to the forest and look for more clues, suggests Daisy. Okay, so that's his first clue. Wooden timekeepers in the forest. There are a lot of beautiful trees in the forest, notes Daisy. But where is the wooden timekeeper? Here is another clue, says Scout, pulling out his field notes. A tree stump. Oh, look over there, said Daisy. That's the stump I found earlier, said Scout. Here's the third clue, Scout said. Rings. I don't see rings anywhere, says Daisy. Why don't you take a closer look at the stump, suggests Scout. Daisy leans in with her magnifying glass. Oh, the rings are in the wood, exclaimed Daisy. They go around the inside of this tree stump. How many? asks Scout. Daisy counts the rings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Terrific, says Scouts. Let's put the 3 clues together to solve the case of the wooden timekeeper. We found the forest, a tree stump, and some tree rings, lists Daisy. So what's with the wooden timekeeper? To the library, says Scout. At the library, Scout pulls a book from the shelf. Daisy reads aloud. Many trees add a new layer of wood under their bark every year. This layer will start out light in color and become darker as the growing season comes to an end. This means you can count each dark ring as 1 year. Okay, so you can see their rings. Right? And the light colors means it's growing, and the dark is when it ends. The light is when it starts again. Annual growth rings of a Douglas fir. The seedling pokes up from the earth. The tree grows quickly as shown by the wide-spaced rings. The tree is damaged by falling timber as shown by uneven rings. Okay, so that's number 3. And if we look here at number 3, it gets really close, but not on this side. So that means something was leaning on it over here. Number 4, the rings show strong, healthy growth of strong, healthy years of steady growth. So if you look at number 4, they're nicely spaced, lots of water and sun, no problems. Ooh, but number 5, the tree is burned by fire. That's what this scar is. So it only got burned on one side. The narrow rings show years of slow growth. See how close they are? So that might mean that there wasn't a lot of water that year, or maybe there were bugs in the area, so it wasn't growing as much. Aha! I think I've solved the mystery, exclaimed Daisy. The tree rings are the Wooden Timekeeper. There were 11 rings, so the tree is 11 years old. Way to go, says Scout. High five. Back in the forest, Scout and Daisy have a mindful moment. Trees are an important part of our ecosystem. They keep our air clean by absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen, which we need to breathe. Let's pretend to be like a tree, Scout, suggests Daisy. Plant one foot on the ground and bend your other knee like I'm doing. Try to balance and stand tall like a tree. Lift your arms up in the air like branches. Now take a big, deep breath of fresh air. It's kind of like yoga. I've had such a fun time solving the case of the Wooden Timekeeper, comments Daisy. Thanks for the great day, says Scout. Speaking of time, it's getting late. I'll walk you home. Thanks, Scout, says Daisy. Later that evening, Scout is resting by the fire. What a day. I stacked firewood, helped Daisy solve a nature mystery, and now... Scout yawns. I think it's about time to go to bed. Good night, gumboot kids. And if you want to learn more about trees, we can read about Douglas firs at the back. Okay, but we are going to talk about what the tree rings can actually tell us. Okay. So we're going to find out what dendrochronology is. Okay, big word, right? So dendrochronology is the scientific process of using tree rings to understand what happened near the tree that year, because the tree really can't talk to us, right? But that's a big word, dendrochronology. And all it does, it doesn't just tell us how old the tree is, it tells us what was happening in that area. Was there a lot of water? Maybe there was a drought, meaning there was no water that year. Maybe it wasn't a lot of rain. Maybe there was a fire. Okay, maybe there was a tree leaning on it. The wind blew something else down. Tree rings can tell us that, not just how old they are. Okay, so let's look at this picture. It's kind of like the one in the book. Right, so we got this little one here, and he's growing. You can see that the tree is leaning because something else fell on it. Guess that tree went away because now he's just growing nice. Ooh, but look at this. This tree must have gone away because he's not over here in this picture. Then the tree next to him got burned by a fire, and so did he a little bit. Right, and it's all dry. And now we got caterpillars. So let's see, what can we do with that? All right, how do the trees get rings? So not all trees have tree rings, only those that have a growing season. All right, a growing season is a limited time span every year that a tree grows taller and wider. Remember, they start off really small and then they get really big, so you can't really hug the tree. Okay, usually they grow spring and summer. Trees in tropical locations like Florida, they don't have cold winters and they might not have tree rings because they kind of grow all year long. Okay, so the further south you go, they have a kind of a spring, summer all the time, but there's no fall and winter for them to stop growing. So they just grow. They won't have tree rings. Trees that do have a growing season though, add new wood right underneath the bark. Okay, and this is the bark. The bark is the outside part of the tree. Right around here. Remember, the layer starts out light in color. It becomes dark as the growing season comes to an end. So the darkest part shows the end of the growing season. Usually it means the end of the summer. right? We're going into fall. The tree's going to lose its leaves. It's going to kind of go to sleep for a little while. So you count each dark ring as 1 year. Now, if you look at this one here on the left, lots and lots of close lines. So there might not have been a lot of water there because there's not a lot of evenly spaced trees. But then it started getting, so probably as its roots got bigger, it got better water. Here, it got started off, had a little bit of less water here, and then started getting lots of water again. All right, when you see a wide tree ring, it had a healthy growing season. That means there's plenty of rain, lots of sun. Right? A thin ring is when a tree has a slow growth. And that could be for a whole lot of things. A drought, which means there's not enough rain or people aren't watering it. Lack of sunlight. Maybe it was a really cloudy summer. We've had a couple of those, right? Or maybe there was an infestation of leaf-eating insects. This year we had cicadas, so we don't know what those did to the new trees, right? So here's your thin rings. Not a lot of growth, right? Not very wide for the white, the light colored part. Right here, lots of growth in the middle, in the beginning. Because remember, this is the beginning of the tree. Lots of water in the beginning, not so much here. Right? This is going to show you first year growth is in the middle. Rainy season, nice and wide. Dry season, not so much. Forest fires, if you find a black spot in your tree, right? There was a fire of some sort. The light color is when it's spring growth, okay? And the dark color is going to be late summer and fall. So what do they tell us about the past climate? Well, again, looking at it, climate is going to be, what kind of weather did we have? So we'll be able to tell from looking at these, was it a wet year? Was it a cool year? Right? That means the tree could grow and we're going to have really wide rings, right? Or maybe it was a dry and hot year, right? And the tree's going to grow slow and we're going to have really small rings. So we can tell about the weather from the past based on the color of the rings or what size the rings are, right? We also can find out, were there floods? Were there droughts? Were there insects? Remember, this year with the cicadas, our trees are probably going to show that in their rings. Right, so if anybody cuts those trees down in 20 years, they're going to be able to see those. Lightning strikes. So some of those black spots might not just be from fires, they might have been from lightning hits, right? Because that burns that area of the tree. And then the tree rings start growing around it. So back to our first pictures. This is A, right? New tree. So B, he's getting kind of, now notice he's a little bit leaning towards the side, okay, especially here, because this tree fell on him. The trees are really close here, not so much over here. See how they're kind of leaning? So you know that something was leaning against it. They're really close, but then they're wide out here. So that means something's leaning against it. D, they're kind of skinny, and that's because he wasn't getting a lot of sun. He had all these tall trees blocking him. He wasn't getting a lot of sun, so he wasn't really growing so much. E, that's this area. He was growing pretty good. He had a lot of sun. He had a lot of water. Then he had that fire. Okay, that's this area. G, that's these really skinny lines. Okay, that was because it was really hot and really dry. And then we had a year or so of, it was okay with the water. And then H again, we had really thin lines together, and that's because of the caterpillars, the bugs. Okay, so we are going to give you, if you come into the library and you ask for one of our science kits, okay, you ask for one of our science kits, we're going to give you something that looks like this. And it's going to be a paper that's going to help you look at the trees. Okay, you can use it when you go out hiking. You could take this with you, fold it up, put it in your pocket, look for some tree stumps if you can see them. Okay, or we're going to give you a tree slice. Okay, and this will tell you all about your tree, because also what's in the bag, besides that paper, is going to be a little tree slice, courtesy of the Warren County Tree Stewards. Okay, they gave us a couple of slices. So I'm going to use a couple of bigger ones that they lent to me. Okay, yours won't be this big. Remember, yours will be about this big, but you're going to be able to see quite a few things on there. Now, this is the bark. Okay, and underneath the bark is going to be all these rings. All right, so I want you to see the rings where it starts growing. Now, it's a little bit harder to see this on the computer because of the glare. You'll be able to see it a lot better when you actually have yours. Right, but you'll be able to see the dark rings. You might need a magnifying glass or just a lot of patience because these trees are really old. Okay, there's a lot of them, a lot of rings on here, but you can see how some of them are evenly spaced. Now, this last one, this is the last year it grew. You can see this dark ring right here at the end. This was the summer it grew. See how wide that one was? Okay, but you can see how close together some of these other rings were. Okay, so I can tell that this tree went through a lot of drought. Where it was growing, it probably had a lot of competition. It wasn't getting a lot of water. Maybe there were a lot of trees around it, right? And then at one point, they must have taken down some of the other trees because it was getting a lot of water out here. Now you see these dark spots, so it might have had problems with bugs because it wasn't doing so well. Okay, or it might have been cut. I don't think this side is any bit better. So because the thing has been cut and it's drying out, it's got this crack in it. So come on in, get your own tree little slice and learn a little bit more about trees. Use the paper and then go out for a hike. Okay, there's lots of trees around here that are cut down. So you can kind of look at them. You can look at the actual tree, if the tree part is there, because that has the rings, or you can look at the stump. Right? And remember, dendrochronology. When your teacher tells you we're going to learn about tree rings, you can use that really big word, okay? So come on in, ask for this, and hope you learn something. Have a good day.